Yo, hi guys, it's Beast, back with some more beastly content, and I know it's been a minute. Had an issue with the internet for a couple days. We are back now. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a tour of this thing. We have finished the silos, we have finished the plot facilities. We do need to set up the irrigation, well at least, go take off the lights and everything, but let's go ahead and get on into this. I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about material costs real quickly, just how much we've been pumping into this. This is a rough thing. This was just for the base design. There's a lot of additions that have been done when it comes to material consumption since then, and there is still yet to be done, but this is my storage room. I'm just gonna go through and do like this little preview tour here while I talk about it and talk about a couple different things about this. I want to do some tips on this in case you may have the crazy idea of doing this yourself. With the additional permanent servers coming on, this is a little bit more appealing now to do, actually, because permanent servers means that you can have months and months to work on this thing, and it kind of creates like this. You can crash back to your permanent server after you go play like another scenario. You go play another scenario and then you bring that all back to the server and you rejoin with the permanent server's base. All the materials can be shared and stored on the permanent server. Really going to be interesting with this permanent server thing coming on the 13th, but without further ado, let's get right on to the material costs here. So, 2,400 copper ingots, 3,200 metal scrap, 5,000 spoiled food, 5.2k logs. I'd probably use like 50k right now. Honestly, I don't know how I got 5.2k on my maths. 37.2k gravel. I think this was like 10k bricks or something. I've used way more now. Once again, I've designed more than that. I'll have like the base blueprint that I had of what the material cost is based upon thrown on screen now. I'm gonna redo it in like Photoshop. I had it written down on like receipt paper because I was just kind of planning this out. This took a lot of planning, guys. This is 8 plots, which just getting 8 plots to place down anywhere in the world is insane. And here's the crazier part, or maybe I'm the crazier part, because I want to do a 16-man next, and I think we're gonna do it on this next new scenario they're talking about. It's like apparently gonna be a scenario that involves Manipus and Way of Winter's map, and it's gonna be a different story. Really hyped to actually see what that's going to be. Apparently, I don't know what's going on with the other 3 scenarios, but that should be interesting to see nonetheless. But as you can see here, back to this, we've went over the material costs here, aside from one thing. So for the water, just to place the plots, like I said, we needed 5,000 spoiled food for all these plots. This was like, I'm thinking 1,400. This is an easy 1,400 plot farm here, okay? So I'm saying that because it's about 180 plots per thing once all is said and done. Right now, it's probably closer to like 2,000, but after all is said and done, once I get the full automated irrigations going on, we got our refineries going on, we got our oil pumps going on in the places where we're going to be pumping oil, we got all that set up and we got everything done like that. And once again, I don't have all the deviations placed down yet. I do have more deviations in Eternal End, and we will be talking about the transfer point system and how you can use the loaded amount of transfer points you're going to get from the alt to bring in all kinds of things, materials, and a ton of these materials that'll allow you to do all sorts of crazy cool things on the permanent server, especially as things progress and you do start to play from alts that are on the same account on different scenarios where you just join onto the permanent, you donate all your materials to it. You'll see how this is going to go. Permanent servers are going to be a great thing, and I cannot wait to show you how this is. So once again, this is my permanent base. This is going to be my permanent base, and then I'm going to play when new scenarios come out. I'll probably send the main off, which is just meaning the main's plot will have to be rebuilt with an alt. Now that we have larger hives, I'll be able to send, some new alts in. I might just send alts in from my main and then send my main's character itself out. But to the future things to do as a one-man hive include the fact that I have 8 accounts, which would be 16 if this was a full-sized hive, because they upgraded the hive after I started this. So I had a full hive, and I was going to be able to say I was a one-man full-sized hive, but then they decided to double the size on me. So now I got to make 8 more accounts apparently, which sounds great, but thankfully I can do them on the same account now, because seems like I might want to start doing that because I can have shared blueprints and stuff. Once again, there's a lot of stuff coming. I might want to cover like what everything is coming in just like a quick video soon enough. I'm probably going to do that, but I've been working on this for so long, and once again, the net's been down for 3 days, so yeah. So you see here, we're just going through and setting up the lights now. Like I said, we had to do that. That's going to be on this preview part here. But I just wanted to talk about the final thing I have to do is to level up all the alts. The reason why I'm actually wanting to do this is because all of them are going to get different roles for the memetic specializations, with I think like up to 5 memetic cleansers. Also, with commissions rolling out every single week, due to the fact that I've let them stack up for a bit, it's going to be really easy to get them all to level 40 relatively quickly without having to do very much work, especially once all of these are actually running as blueberry farms. Right now we're kind of held up on the water, as it is like 4,000 water per one of the plots I have here, and I have 8 player plots here. So I'm thinking let's see, I have the numbers here actually, so we'll go ahead and go over that real quickly. So it's a total of 32,000 boiled water that I'm going to need to actually fill all of the irrigators constantly. And that's just like a perfect fill with like a little bit of seepage, so one of them is probably going to be like 990 something. So you want more like 5,000 water being created. So that's how our automated system is going to have to be. It's going to have to create 5,000 purified water per hour in order to actually keep this thing filled up. On the areas that are in water, those should be pretty easy to do. We will be setting that up eventually. Once again, next video we'll probably get on into the actual like automation of all of this and making sure all the water is automated. There's still a ton of stuff to do. Like I said, I have not near reached the peak potential of this base. However, I can say we're very close, and as soon as we get all these blueberries going on, which I think the next thing I have to work on actually is just to begin work on some sort of automated water process, even if it's just on one plot, which I think it's going to have to be a plot by plot modification. Now, as you can see here, we finally entered this center structure here, and if you haven't noticed, then I'll throw up just this small layout, like the base layout, just of how the bases are laid out. I basically have two different segments set up that have plot facilities. Now, it's pretty much 4x4 and 4x4, but one of the 4x4s, or both on the 4x4s, one of the squares is actually a conjoinment of the other 4x4, and then I just have like an extra wing out to the side. A 16 plot would probably be a perfect square, if I could find a place to build a 16 plot, honestly, which I think I'd have to go to winter for, in all honesty, but we will see soon enough. As you can see though, we're still just going through here doing all of these stinking irrigators. I literally cannot believe I don't have these done yet. It's just absolutely crazy. But let's get on into the next little tidbit here. So, like I said, with the base teleport set up, I have the doors set up where it's like it teleports me from one corner of the territory plot to the other side of the territory plot. It makes this navigating a lot quicker, but also the doors are placed directly in the center of both plot facilities. So I go into this facility, water it if I have to, go out into the other three that are attached to it, water them, and then teleport back to the other side, water all of those, and then go water that very back one in the back. Usually I'll start in the chest room. And yeah, so we will be getting the water going on soon enough. I think I'm just going to slap some boiled water together very soon just so that I can get this blueberry farm off the ground, and then I'll start working on the automated water process. Once the automated water process is going though, this should be a very, very smooth setup. And once again, this is going to be a permanent server, so there's all sorts of things you could be growing on this permanent server, from deviated crops to all sorts of other things that you could give to your other characters going into these other scenarios that would allow them to have a very, very good time. So you could just transfer point in things like the materials you need for whimsical drinks and other end-game items, which would really make for a very, very more exciting version of the end game. And I do believe this is where the end game is at, whether it's playing in a hive or being a one-man hive, depending on your social skills and the amount of time you got to give to the game. Once again, this is fun. This is amazing. This is awesome. This has been a blast, guys, and this has been so many hours already. And I gotta get to the next parts of it, but I'm gonna go ahead and explain how I was actually doing the deviation transfers now, and how I'm actually able to get all the deviations I need for 160 deviation plots. For 8-man, a 16-man would be 320 deviation slots. Now, I want to cover deviations that both you'd want to bring in and be using in the plot for like some great resources and additions to that, but also how I was actually bringing my deviations in. So on my main and my first alt, I have a handful of deviations already. So if you actually drop those deviations in your Eternal Land and then your friend joins that Eternal Land, they can collect the bag and get all of those deviations. Now, if this is your alt that collects it and it has 20,000 server transfer points, because it's an alt and it hasn't used any of its transfer points yet, that means that it can transfer in easily 160 deviations. Now, it's going to require all 8 of the alts to do this. It's like you can still get like a good 30 or 40 per alt regardless. You can get a lot of deviations, and I just transferred like 37 in here. I'm showing this after the end of this video. Actually, the very next thing I need to do is get the rest of the deviations set up. I'm going for mainly paper dolls. I will go ahead and list off just a little bit of a recommendation of what paper or what deviations I would recommend. So H37s are great. They're Manibus farms. I need to really look into the H37 farms. Probably going to do a guide over where to farm the H37s because they are key deviations. They are passive electronic parts, which is absolutely amazing because that's great for Stardust pumps. Now, the next one is, of course, paper dolls for rubber. Digby is for a variety of different ingots, silver, and gold. A few logging beavers is good because having passive logs is nice. You may not always be going out to log trees. Tar puddings are great for fuel, and if you love the oil processing memetic, especially since the fact that you're going to have either the one-man hive or a hive of people who could get oil processing, you might want to have a bunch of tar puddings. I'm not going that route. I'm really wanting to go the Stardust Pump route, especially, you know, with the amount of materials I'm going to be able to get from loot farms and everything. Once the base is actually built, I'll be able to focus more on getting loot runs done, getting accounts leveled up and things like that. And as soon as I get the blueberry farm set up, I think it's going to aid in getting the accounts actually leveled up itself. I do believe I have a ton of material for tier 5 gear if I'm able to blueberry and commissions my way to level 40 on all the accounts. That would be a blast because then I could have tier 5 gear on every single account, and I know I could easily get the Astrum to do the blueberries. So I'd be able to actually get, you know, at least a decent gun and a, you know, status piece or something like that, and probably even some armor, honestly. Purchase that 1 star on all of these accounts relatively soon. So we should be able to do all the loot runs, absolutely no problem, that we actually need to do and get a ton of loot from doing this. But on to what we could actually transfer in. So we could transfer in up to like 320 deviations, even just on an 8-man, 1-man hive. But we could also transfer in E-parts, up to 12,000 of them, 24,000 if it was a 16-man. Once again, we could be transferring in so much material. Rubber is the same as before, 12,000 even on an 8-man, 1-man hive. 24,000 if you're a 16-man. Acid, you could transfer in 16,000 up to 12,000 or 12,000 if it is a 16-man, and you know the list goes on. Seeds, up to 6,000 seeds even just on an 8-man. 12k at 16, you get it. I'm not going to say the 16-man from now on. Fertilizer up to 3,000, and gunpowder up to 1,600, which I wouldn't do gunpowder. But I do believe this is just about the end of the video. I will be seeing you in the next one. We'll be covering the next phase of this. We have just scratched the surface on this thing, like I said. I'm going to get all the rest of the deviation slots and in the net filled up, and in the next video, I'll show you a quick harvest of this. I have harvested this before, and it is a ton of all sorts of materials, guys. But I am out. See you. Keep it beast mode.